But we have an utter inability to love and to obey. The people of Israel were warned, don't disobey God, don't disobey God, please obey God and you will have all these blessings. And from Joshua to 2nd Chronicles is a story of how they continuously disobeyed God. They disobeyed, God warned them, they disobeyed, God warned them, and that was a continuous cycle until in 2nd Chronicles they are exiled. What God had told them through Moses would happen, happened to them. They were exiled from their land. They were taken from their land, first by Assyria and then 125 years later by the empire at that time, the Babylonian Empire. They were taken from their land and exiled to another land. We are so wicked that we cannot bring ourselves to love or to obey God. And so in Jeremiah chapter 17 verse 9 it reads, "The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it?" John Phillips, in his book Exploring Romans, writes these words about the human condition. He says, "Man's power to think lifts him above the beasts of this field. In this age of scientific enlightenment and advanced technology, we have every evidence that man has a brilliant intellect, yet at the same time it is strangely clouded to spiritual realities. For despite his genius in so many realms, man betrays a most remarkable denseness when it comes to the things of God. He has no natural understanding in this realm at all. His mind, incisive in so many ways, is warped and twisted when it comes to eternal and spiritual issues. The damage wrought by sin runs deep into the very roots of the thinking processes of man. His imaginations are often filthy, his memories often betray him, his deductions are often false, and his conclusions are often wrong." And so God has to change us from the inside out. And that is what we see in this passage that is in front of us. In Deuteronomy chapter 30 and verse 6 it reads, "The Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants so that you may love him with all your heart and with all your soul and live." Yeah, about 20 chapters before, in chapter 6 verse 5, it said, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind." And then 20 chapters later, he says that God will circumcise your heart so that you can love God. Because if God doesn't change us from the inside out of our own ability, we cannot. And because God has changed us from the inside out, obedience is now a gift from God. And to show you the difference in obedience now versus obedience in the past, when obedience is a gift and before it was a gift. Let me go back to the quintessential commands of the Old Testament, the 10 Commandments, which is in Exodus chapter 20. Let me read some of those 10 Commandments. "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. You shall not covet." Now that was a command. But when obedience is a gift, the command becomes a promise. Now I'm going to read the same thing again and look at it as a promise and not a command. "You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not misuse the name of the Lord your God. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not give false testimony. You shall not covet." You see how the command now, because our hearts have been changed, has become a promise. This is what we would do because our hearts have been changed.